My professor thought I was drunk for 2 months, but something else was happening. Hi everyone, I never thought I would post something like this, but I honestly don't know what to do anymore. I feel like everything in my life is slowly falling apart and I'm about to lose the one thing I've been fighting for. So, here's the situation. I'm a university student, 3rd year, and for the last 2 months something has been very wrong with my body. At first it was just headaches, not normal headaches, the kind that feel like someone is tightening a metal band around your skull. The kind that makes light feel like knives in your eyes, but I ignored it, because when you're broken in college, you ignore a lot of things. The problem is my classes start at 8 o'clock in the morning. One of them is a big lecture class with these ridiculously bright lights. The kind that make the room feel like a hospital operating table. The first time the pain hit during class, I thought I was going to pass out. My vision blurred. My stomach turned. I felt like I was going to throw up. I asked the professor if he could dim the lights. He just looked at me and said no. People laughed. I sat back down and tried to survive the rest of the lecture. 10 minutes later I had to run to the bathroom to throw up. After that day it kept happening, every class, every morning, head pounding, light burning my eyes, nausea, sometimes dizziness so bad the floor felt like it was moving. But the worst part wasn't the pain. It was my professor. He clearly thought I was hungover. One day he literally stopped the lecture, pointed at me, and said, if you plan to continue showing up intoxicated, maybe you should choose another class. The whole room went silent. I felt my face burn. I wanted to scream that I wasn't drunk, but honestly, I looked like someone who had partied all night. Messy hair, pale face, half asleep. So I just said quietly, I'm not drunk. He didn't believe me. I could tell. Here's the thing people don't talk about when you're a broke student. Doctors are expensive, like really expensive. My family helps when they can, but they're already struggling. Rent, food, tuition, everything piles up fast. So instead of going to the doctor I did what every stubborn idiot does. I googled my symptoms. Big mistake. Google told me I had everything from stress to a brain tumor, which didn't help my anxiety at all. Meanwhile my professor kept getting more irritated with me. I could feel it every class, every time I ran out to throw up. Every time I put my head down because the lights were unbearable, and honestly, I started getting angry too, like, really. Angry, because I was trying. I never skipped his class, not once, even when I felt like my skull was about to split open. But to him I was just the irresponsible guy in the back row, the drunk one. The problem student. Last week things got worse. During class my vision went dark around the edges. I couldn't hear the lecture anymore, just this ringing sound in my ears. I thought I was going to faint right there. That scared me enough to finally go to the campus clinic, except even that wasn't simple. The appointment cost more than I could afford. So I had to borrow money from a friend, which made me feel even worse. Right now I'm waiting for the test results, and I'm honestly terrified, because if the professor reports me to the administration, I might actually get expelled before I even know what's wrong with me. I'm trying my best, but it feels like no one believes me. So I guess my question is, what would you do in my situation? Should I try to explain everything to the professor before I even have a diagnosis, or just wait and hope things don't get worse? Because right now, I'm exhausted. Update, 1 month later. Okay. A lot has happened, and I finally have an answer. After the clinic visit they referred me to a neurologist. More tests, more bills, more waiting. At one point I honestly considered dropping out because I couldn't keep paying for everything, but then the doctor called. The diagnosis is chronic migraine disorder. Apparently the symptoms I've been having are classic: severe headaches, light sensitivity, nausea, dizziness, fatigue. The doctor literally said bright classroom lights are one of the worst triggers, which explains a lot. On one hand I felt relieved. On the other hand I was frustrated, because if I had known this earlier maybe the last 2 months wouldn't have been such a nightmare, and now I have medication and an official medical report. But there's still one problem. My professor, he still thinks I'm the guy who shows up drunk, and I'm honestly nervous about telling him. Update, 1 month after the diagnosis today I finally told him, and it was one of the most stressful moments of my life. I had been called to the director's office. Apparently my professor reported concerns about my behavior in class. Translation, he thought I was intoxicated during lectures. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might faint again. For a second I actually thought I was about to be expelled. Then I remembered the medical report. So I pulled it out of my backpack and handed it to the director. He read it, then passed it to my professor. The silence in that room felt endless. Finally the professor looked up at me, and for the first time in 2 months, he looked concerned instead of annoyed. You've been dealing with this every class? He asked. I nodded. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I shrugged, because honestly, I thought he wouldn't believe me. The next weeks were different. He dimmed the lights during lectures. Sometimes he checked if I needed a break. It wasn't perfect, but it helped. More importantly, I finally felt like I wasn't fighting alone anymore. Final update, 2 years later. I almost forgot about this post until today. Because today something happened that felt impossible 2 years ago. I graduated, not just graduated, I finished with one of the highest grades in my class. When they called my name during the ceremony, I spotted someone in the audience. My old professor. He smiled and nodded at me, and later he told me something I'll never forget. I misjudged you at the beginning, he said, but you turned out to be one of the most determined students I've ever taught. Looking back now, I realize something. Those months were some of the hardest in my life. Pain, fears, debt, being misunderstood, but they also proved something to me. Sometimes the person struggling quietly in the back row is the one fighting the hardest battle, and sometimes they still make it to the finish line.